Welcome inside episode 445 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains.
Ross, it is a Senators win. Finally, we get to talk about it, but we have a jam-packed episode today. We went 40 minutes with Brent Wallace from the Wally and Methot podcast, so we absolutely have to have all that in the show. So if you want to hear us talk about the win, we talk about it in the POSTCAST yesterday, and get excited for this interview today. It's a good one.
That's an all-time tease, Pilsy. So yes, check out the POSTCAST now coming after every Ottawa Senators game. And last night, the boys were fired up. So we'll touch on the game, then get right into our interview with Brent Wallace. Lots to have going into a busy weekend. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Today is Friday, December 3rd, and Pilsy, as a goalie-friendly show, we always love to see it when the Tendy steals 2 points.
Man, and steal did he ever. That was highway robbery, Ross. It's Anton Forsberg's best game ever. And it was an Ottawa Senators record to get a win with a shot differential of minus 29, and they still get the W. So that was absolutely incredible. Formie gets 2 goals. The top line finishes it off with the game winner. What more can you ask for?
I was saying tied because it's tied for the most saves in a win in Senators history as well. Tied with Craig Anderson. No surprise that it's Andy that gets involved there as well. And Andy got that in February of 2011. I believe, yes, it was. It was his first ever game with the Ottawa Senators against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
When he ruined the tank.
Boom. He did ruin that tank. I still don't forgive him, but I think
I forgive him.
I forgive him. Yeah, 4th in Vezina voting in that 1 year, and then it just a complete
greatest goalie of Senators history.
You nailed it. Forsberg's not there yet, but he's now stolen 2 games, Pilsy, this year. Game 1 against Toronto, where he then set his own personal best with 46 saves. He one-ups it. 47 last night. My favorite was on Nino Niederreiter, an absolute beauty of a save. And in the first period alone, Sens get outshot 20-3, and Forsberg's reaction time was what impressed me the most. 3 deflections where he just stood tall and made sure to get across and make himself as big as possible. Because on those deflections, you know it better than everyone, right? You just have to stay there. You can't move. And
you gotta hope the puck hits you.
Yeah. And there was another play where he did just that, where he was on the wrong post. He came across in the third period and then just dropped down in the butterfly and hit him right in the crest. So, you got to be lucky to be good. Good to be lucky. And that was Anton Forsberg and the rest of the team who took advantage of their opportunities. Is that a fair way to put their offensive production last night?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't get much opportunities, and they scored 3 goals, so definitely I would say that's fair. They took advantage of any opportunity, and I don't care how the Sens are scoring goals these days. If it's crashing into the net and borderline, like you're not sure if it's goaltender interference or not, doesn't matter. If the puck's crossing the line, that's good enough for me these days.
Whether it goes off the opponent's skate or not.
Don't care, yeah.
They all count the same, and all of our shows count the same too. So we're going to take advantage of our longer than usual interview, but still it's too good not to. You'll hear in it. We ask our last questions with 20 minutes left, and then next thing you know, I'm telling Brent we got to get off this Zoom call because it's about to end on us after 40 minutes. So Wally was absolute beauty. Great to have him back on the show. If you want to hear more from him too, when he was on in early March, right after first episode of Wally Methot, great insight into his upbringing in the industry and a whole lot more. Today, we focus more so on the Ottawa Senators aspect of it and how the Wally and Methot Show was originated, which is a great story as well. So if you want more talk on the Senators' 3-2 victory over the Carolina Hurricanes that snapped a 6-game losing streak, got them on the win column, their first win on the road since Dallas way back when. It has been a long time coming. So we get fired up in the POSTCAST. You can find that in any of your audio feeds or on YouTube. Pilsy, we've got a new sponsor alert before we get to Brent Wallace. It is Boost. Boost Mobile. So you listen to podcasts for the power of the inside track. We know that. That's why you're Locked On Senators. You switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money. Because with Boost, you get the power of a free 5G phone so you can listen to the latest episodes of LOSP and keep up with your favorite players and teams. The power of 3 unlimited data lines for $30 a month per line so your family can share all the insights. And the power of one of the American largest 5G networks. You can do it all at the speed of 5G. With all that money, you'll save, and all that edge, you'll gain. Just how powerful will you become? Switch to Boost Mobile and find out. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A32 5G when you switch to one of America's largest 5G networks. More to save, Boost Mobile. Disclaimer, free phone limited to new customers in one line. Additional restrictions apply. Offers coverage not available everywhere or for phones or networks. See boostmobile.com for details. All right, from the Wally and Methot Show, here is Brent Wallace. All right, we now welcome a very special guest back to Locked On Senators. He's been covering your local hockey team for over 20 years now. The host of the Wally and Methot Show. You can find it on all streaming platforms. How many episodes in are we, Wally? We just started it last time you were on.
You know what? I don't know. It's somewhere in the 60s, but Craig keeps changing the numbers, so I gave up trying to figure it out.
And are you not counting them for live shows? It does get confusing because I know on the YouTube it's changing. I might have got ahead of myself. It's Brent Wallace. I think I went right to Wally, but welcome back to the show. Do you remember your first time on with us?
Yes, I always remember this time.
You don't have to pander to us. It's okay. I know you're doing a ton of interviews when you're at that stage trying to get promotion going for the show.
A little bit, yeah. It's been 8-9 months. It's been interesting.
Oh, that's a ton of fun. Well, I'll start right with that. And in our last interview with you, we chatted about how you went to school in Halifax. We also talked about pandering. So I'm doing a little bit of that with the New Sens jersey in the background. 100%. We went through your upbringing in New Brunswick. We got some Sens takes. It's really a great interview. We enjoyed having you on. But my first question, and you've been at the arena for so long, running around doing the in-person interviews in the crowd, your intermission reports, all those things. But now you're still covering the team, but you're doing it from home. What are the biggest differences you've noticed in those two scenarios?
I'm fatter. I don't walk as much since I'm not at the rink running around every game. So that's the biggest thing. My suits don't fit. It's just different. You know what? Actually, I find out more information now than I did at the rink, because now that I'm outside and people don't always see you talking every day to the same people in the organization, they tell you more information. So some of the stuff we hold on to and some of the stuff we release a bit, but it's interesting when you're not around it as much as how much more information you can find out. And when you're not a broadcast partner, you don't have to worry about what you say.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it, is you get a little distance, both literally and from a podcast relationship perspective. Now, like we were saying, last time we had you on the show, Wally, you were just starting the show, and we've had people ask us to do some crossover episodes, to chat with each other. So thanks for joining the show, first of all. But can you fill us in a little bit on the origin story of the Wally and Methot Show? Like, at that point, everything was so fresh, so we wanted to give you some time to get the show started. But now that you've got the ball rolling and you guys are in full swing here, how did this all come together, including how Craig Medaglia was added to the equation?
So it's a great question. And I look back now and everything's almost a blur, because I think it was 4 days after TSN called me that I'm just like, what am I going to do? What do I do?
Yeah, you moved quickly.
So I've actually met Ian Mendes, and I had talked a while back about, is there something we can do maybe? And we were both working for different, or actually we were both working at Bell at the time. We're like, well, we can't do anything while we work at Bell. So we shelved that. And so after about the 4th day, I think my wife said, you should call Marc. And I was like, you're right, I should. So I literally picked up the phone. And actually, I want to say about day 3, I think I talked to Craig. And Craig's like, if you're ever interested in doing a podcast, let me know. I'd love to help out. We can work something out. So day 4, I called Meth. He's like, Wally, I've been waiting for your call, which was weird because I don't know if he was just sitting by the phone staring at it. But anyway, so from that day on, we spoke every day and we're like, hey, are you ready to do this? Can we make this commitment? And you guys understand, put a podcast together. It's not, you just don't sit down and record it and away you go. Like, I didn't know what I didn't know, and it's a pile of work. So it was exhausting. So that was a big part of it. Like I didn't understand how much this was going to take of my time to try and make this right. So Craig was very good. Other people reached out. We've had a lot of support from a lot of people, and people that I didn't really know at the beginning who just offered up to say, hey, look, watch out for this or that. Steve Warren was really good to me. And I would like to point that out. Like Steve Warren talked to me quite a bit about what it takes to put a podcast together. And there was a couple others, but he was a big one. And then it just evolved. And so I think we were a couple weeks in talking about this, maybe 3 weeks. And I'm like, well, just a few more and we'll get this sorted out. And Meth's like, let's go now. Let's get this going. And I'm like, okay. So away we went on this little venture. And I don't know, it seems to go pretty well most of the time.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think a big reason for that, and the reason why we attribute a bit of why we have a following, is that everyone in Ottawa, if you're back in the day, especially now, it's easier to consume media, but you would get the 7-minute Leafs highlight pack with post game and then analysis. Then you'd get the 6-minute Habs one, and then they just show a 40-second highlight pack, and then they're off to commercial for the Senators. And now, even though you guys, and you've had such a great variety of guests from across the league, more national look, but it's still based in Ottawa, and you still talk Sens first. And I think that goes a long way with the fan base.
And it's true. Like, it's really weird that Ottawa is it's the smallest market in Canada for Sens in Canada, but it is, sorry, my phone keeps ringing by the same person. It is, I think it has the biggest online following, like the following online and what everybody does with your podcast and what Steve Warren does. And there's Future Sickos and there's all kinds. It's like, it's a jammed space of people that want to talk about the Sens. So in the social media world, I think Ottawa is a huge following, and we want to make sure we cater to that. It's fun for us to go back and talk to guys like that Meth has played with, he hasn't spoken to in years, or good buddies of his, or people like Andre Waugh, who we never played with, but wanted to get a chance to talk to. So that for me has been really good, just getting the chance to shoot the shit and for them to trust us enough that we're not going to do something stupid in an interview. Leads them into wanting to come on. And then you get the young guys that want to come in. As you've talked to Sokoloff and Drake Batherson and those guys, it's been so much fun to see the new guys. Like, we did an interview with Alfie at the beginning, Daniel Alfredson, and
it's episode 1, wasn't it?
Right. So
yep.
We wanted a big splash at the beginning. Anyway,
that's big splash.
So, yeah. So people in the rink watched it. Sorry, I should say on the team, and some of the players who were young had no idea who Alfie is because he's not around the rink, and they're like, I would like to meet Daniel Alfredson after having watched the interview. So that's just one of my problems I have with this organization, is that they shield like the best player that's ever played in this franchise.
He lives, what, 10 minutes from the rink?
Right. So I'd probably argue Erik Karlsson's the best player, but Daniel Alfredson is the icon, the legend. Even, Chris Phillips is now isolated, if you will, from that. Like, these veterans, all these guys who are still in the city could easily come into this organization and just hang out, but they don't even have that stuff. They don't have any history built up with this organization because they've tried to push them all away. And by we all know who that is.
Yes. And the latest round of Don't Get Your Hopes Up, making the turn after a Canucks reporter put a little something out on social media yesterday. You think that's just getting our hopes up once again?
I will say, I believe there is truth to that. I have had some conversations.
Patrick Johnson, I think the guy's name is.
Yeah. And I've had some conversations with some other media members who are aware that there's maybe something to this. I don't know. I know. Every time someone bring it up, and everybody in the organization is like, he's not selling the team. He's just not selling it. It's his to keep. He wants to make sure he has this. It's been willed to his daughters, all that stuff. So I don't believe that he's willing to sell. Now, if someone came with $900 million, like they had for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and offered to buy it, maybe, but I doubt it. So I don't know. Like, I don't believe within the next 5 years that there's a new owner, but maybe I'm wrong. I would like to think I'm wrong, but I doubt it.
We'd like to think you're wrong as well, Wally, and we don't say that too often, but in this case,
I'm okay with
that. That definitely is the case. Now, since that's just the way the world is, and that we don't have much more to talk about on the Melnick front, let's get back to your show. And what's it like? I want to get your opinion on what is it like working with a former player. Like, you get a whole different perspective, especially, and you laugh.
What a ricochet shot at me, eh? Must be nice to have a co-host who played.
Yeah, Ross. It would have been great if you had a better draft year and we could have had a former player, but that happens. But I mean, more in the perspective that, like, Ross and I both come from a broadcasting background, so we have very similar kind of styles, right? Whereas obviously you and Methot have very different styles here. So what's it like working working with someone that is kind of on the opposite side, well, for lack of a better term, was on the opposite side of the glass when you were both working?
So here's a couple things. One is, I always knew Meth was really articulate. And even when we were like hanging out and talking in the years past, I don't say hanging out, but we would talk occasionally outside of hockey. But I always knew that he could really talk well. And TSN tried for years to get him to come on to be part of the broadcast at some point. He's like, I'm just not ready yet. So anyway, fast forward to now sitting down to do this. By the way, I think he maybe end up in the top 3 analysts in Canada at some point on television within the next 5 years. Like, I think he's so good at what he does. So here's an example. Like, Methot, I'll send out a rundown of what we're going to talk about in the show, maybe the night before. We won't have a phone chat or anything. I'll just send it out. We sit down in the chair, we record, and we could talk all day long. Like, we don't redo stuff. We don't do any of that. Like, he can talk about anything, any topic. And I've tried in shows to throw him a bit, just a topic that he wasn't aware of.
Just keep him on his toes. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
But he's so smooth. And so that part I really appreciate. Now, he is a player. And so they don't really have the same agenda or the same time frame that we do, but he is, like, if I tell him at 8:45, he's there at 8:45. But some days he's like, I'm really busy today, can we not do this or whatever? So and he talks about always being busy, and I'm like, you don't have a job. So he's staying at home looking after the kids. He's doing lots of that stuff. So it is fun because it's a whole different perspective for sure. But I would appreciate a little more of his, if he had a broadcast background a little better. Right? Like, you
send him to school. Get the Wally Scholarship Fund. Send him to school for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's what we need.
College of Sports Media.
Yeah. So that part is, like, interview wise, like, he doesn't really get too excited about doing interviews because he just finds himself listening as a fan a lot of the times.
Right.
But then the one thing he chips in can create a memory startup for a story.
And that's what I've told him. I go, Meth, I don't care if you ask 5 questions or 20. I just want to hear your just what makes you want to ask that question, because it's completely different than anything I've got in my head. And so that's how the interviews. But the interviews are my favorite part of the show by far, obviously. But working with Meth is, I really like it. We're both type A, so we snap at each other occasionally, just because we want the best out of the show. But it's been a lot of fun. I will say that.
That's awesome, man. You kind of answered my lead-in question, which was, what's your favorite part of the show? Interviews. Hit us with your Mount Rushmore. We won't ask you to single out one, but we're the top 4 interviews that you guys have had on Wally and Methot.
You've got some tough choices to make here. You guys have had a collection of guests that have been awesome.
My favorite was Chris Neal, just the way he tells stories. Really, and you've always wanted him in a more lax environment rather than, what we got on TV when he was playing.
Exactly.
And I keep resisting the urge to bring him on like once a month. Because everybody's got a Chris Neal story. It seems to come on our shows like, oh yeah, I remember this time. So and I talk to him all the time, so I know he's available to come on at some point. I don't want to wear him out. So Neela was really good. Jamie McLennan was really good to me, which we have him booked again to come on, a Noodles 2.0 we're calling it.
Awesome.
Ken, I really like the Ken Hitchcock interview, and maybe because I'm older, but he's got great stories. Like when you're calling Steve Yzerman a Muppet, I really think that there's something in this interview. And he's talking about throwing shoes at Lindy Ruff. Like, wow. I really liked how good that interview was.
We both had, yes, Tessa Bonham. You just had Cheryl Pounder, who's one of our favorites as well. She's great.
Yeah, extremely good. Yeah.
And then Brian Boucher, another one we both had when Tyler, he's got some great stories from back in the day as well. The goalies, right? You know that. The goalies have the best stories.
I'm trying to think of another one that, like, Kevin Bieksa, I really enjoyed. But like we've had, I don't know, 65. Like, it's tough for me to come up and think of 4 or 5. We've been very fortunate. I will say that.
Yeah, no doubt. Who's your least favorite? You said you couldn't single anyone out, so there you go.
I'm trying to think, like, I don't know that every interview we've done, I'm like, man, that's really good.
Yeah, it's such a nice
feeling. Here's what I'll tell you my least favorite. And my least favorite is Chris Phillips, because he was about 5 minutes long. And I want him to come on to a full show. That's why. So he was really good in his 5-10 minutes we had him on, and we didn't have a lot of time because it was opening night, I think it was, that we were doing Sens home opener. And so we had to fit him inside this little box. Anyway, I've asked him to come back. I'm hoping we can work that out.
Wait, so speaking of least favorite, just so it's not too personal here, who had the worst "what's your favorite snack" answer? Like, whose answer was just like,
great
really?
follow-up, Bill?
That's it.
So I don't remember a lot of stuff. So
I'm with you there.
Join the club.
I'm trying to think, like, I like Drake Batherson, who likes movie popcorn, was interesting to me. Like, he would
like,
go to
did someone say like a
theater
healthy food? Like, I love bran muffins.
Yeah,
Boro probably.
I don't know if I asked Boro. Kyle Bukauskas is mad. He's been on twice, and I haven't asked him either time.
Oh no!
And so now I will never ask him.
Well, we got to learn how he gets his hair to grow like that. So what is that kid eating?
Just his helmet. That's a good question. I don't know. There has been someone who said it was recent that I eat really healthy. It might be Andre Waugh, but then I think I got him to come up. I think he's like a candy kind of guy. A lot of guys.
Well, that's a good tease for your interview. Now
candies.
we got to listen to find out.
Yeah. Now I can't remember. I'm terrible with my memory. Yeah.
Hope you're enjoying our chat with Brent. We'll get you right back to it. But first, a word from our friends at Bet Online, the #1 sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. And for good reason. Bet Online is where you can get all your props, your over-unders, and your puck line money line. I'm a big puck line guy, although Pilsy was on Carolina's puck line last night. So we got to continue. The only thing more cursed than the Ottawa Senators is Pilsy's parlay of the day. So we're going to take a break from that at betonline.ag, but we're not going to take a break from telling you that we know it's the best sports book, and we want to prove it to you. So we're offering you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just put in the promo code Locked On. Just put in promo code Locked On, and right there, bang, you get a 50% welcome bonus. So you put in $100, bingo, bango, bongo. That is 50 free play dollars right there for you. Put in 200, that's 100. You get it, and we do too. The key is that you're in the action. So get off the sidelines, get into the action, and don't forget the promo code Locked On gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It's Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts.
Ross, earlier we talked about a Boost Mobile for your phone, but if you need a boost for your energy and for your workouts, you got to check out Built Bar. It's the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. You guys know this. All the bars are covered in 100% chocolate. It's delicious. There's so many different amazing flavors to try from. And the best part is they're low in calorie, low in sugar, but high in fiber and high in protein. All the things you want, none of the things you don't want. So head to built.com today, guys. And since you're a loyal listener of the Locked On Senators podcast, we're going to hook you up with the promo code. Ross got it right down here at the bottom for you guys watching at YouTube. For you guys listening, I'm going to let you know. Head to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order. So get a mixed box at built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your next order. It's Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. And now, back to our chat with Brent Wallace.
Andre Waugh told us a story about starting a bench clearing brawl in a shootout. And then my first question was, what were you doing taking a shot in a shootout at any level? But I thought he's a story time. So yeah, go check out Wally and Methot today, because this is coming out on Friday. And I know you guys are putting out the interview with Andre Waugh. Another question I've got for you going back, and thanks again for joining us. My final question for you today. And it's about the team and how do you maintain, because this is something that I've kind of struggled with as well, as we're doing this so often and the team just gets worse and worse as we've gone along here through the start of the season. Because as much as, you want to point out all the flaws, people are still kind of wanting this to be a hobby. So how do you maintain like trying to find a silver lining that fans can create some hope, but at the same time telling it the way it is, which isn't very pretty at the moment?
It's a great question. So, and you guys know this, so you're trying to do the same thing, is the players themselves are the silver lining. So is every player the top 6 forward and top 2 pairing? No, of course not. But they are fun all into themselves. Like if you get a chance to talk to Chris Tierney, people want to complain about his hockey. He's a really good guy who's got a really good sense of humor. There's lots. So and that's the thing we try to bring on some of these guys on the show, because people go, I didn't know. Like I didn't know he was like that. And now I get a better sense to who we're talking about. It's trying to show those guys, like I know Austin Watson, who came to play in our golf tournament. We had a long chat. I really enjoy him. We're trying to bring, and then he goes and gets injured and he gets COVID. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll hold off on the interview for now. You find out more about those guys. That's the silver lining, is all those guys individually are fun people. Like I don't know that there's anybody in that whole group that I don't like. And I think that becomes a big part, is trying to cheer on those guys to individually at least have success. The rest of it is just a mess by management. Like this team is a disaster of epic proportions to me. And I thought that going into the year, and it is played out. Like you can't keep taking players on waivers and think you're going to ice an NHL team. They have 3 guys in their roster right now who are claimed off waivers. We saw one of them score a goal and not play in the third period against the Vancouver Canucks. Another one's a goalie that we're not really sure what he can do. And the third guy is a defenseman who, again, got victimized against Vancouver. And I'm not sure how much he's going to play.
Wow.
So stop doing that to the fan base is the thing I have. Like ice a real team for this fan base to enjoy. You owe it to this fan base to do that. If you're going to tell me the rebuild is over, then it better be full of quality players. And right now, this group, for whatever reason, can't figure it out and can't put it all together. But don't put that on the Sens fans, that's for sure. And here's what, by the way, DJ Smith's taking a lot of heat for his quote about real Sens fans or true Sens fans.
Right.
I don't think what he said he meant to say the way people are taking it.
And Ian Mendes did follow up with some context, which was good to the question.
It looks bad when it's just written. You know, 1200 just tweets out the one-liners. Yeah, it looked worse than it was.
He's not saying, oh, just the true fans really. He's just saying, like, all of you fans who are out there, like we're with you. We understand it. He's not trying to single out the people that are trying to take shots at it. I just have a problem with how that's worded. And from what I know of DJ, and he was one of the first people to call me when I got laid off, he's a really good person. And there's no disrespect he meant to the fan base of Ottawa. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and throw another one in the pile too, Pilsy. You mentioned 3 guys on waivers. Dylan Gambrell passed through waivers earlier in the year, and then they got him for a 7th round pick. So make it 4. And 2 of them are seeing power play time. Too. Josh Brown, 5th rounder. Yeah, Nick Paul throw in.
Like there's a few of those guys, but
Sanford, like what's Logan's Brown value, that sort of thing.
Right. So you need, like, St. Louis wanted to get rid of Zach Sanford and his contract in the worst way. And he's playing on your top line in Ottawa. And I know he got a hat trick. I get it, but everybody has one of those games. Like, can we pump the brakes here a little bit? Like, this team is so far from done. Like, I just don't, this is I think we're 2 more years before this team is done this particular rebuild. And can we stop using rebuild as a term? I know we do because it's easy. Yeah. But this isn't a rebuild. This is a complete tear down.
Catastrophe.
Well, the difference is, Wally, or at least I think, a rebuild is when you're purposely losing and it's a plan. And when you say the rebuild is over and you're in 32nd in the league, you're no longer rebuilding. You just suck at that point. Like that's just where it's at. And I think
so. All that does is just generates more animosity. Like it's not hard to figure out that the 2 PRs are probably not seeing eye to eye right now.
You see the space sitting with each other. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to be nice here. Is that you just brought in one guy who has been trying to be a GM in the National Hockey League for a long time. So now he's like, you brought a fox into the hen house, for lack of a better term. Yeah. Yes, he gets back in the National Hockey League. You don't think he wants your job, and now you are your own tire fire because you're hiding from all your fans. You've built a horrendous lineup. You continue to try and isolate your coach. You've made your number 1 goalie a scapegoat. Oh, and now this guy wants your job. So there's there's a whole other dynamic going on. Like this organization can't get out of its own way. And that's the problem I have. It's the front office that continues just to annihilate whatever goodwill there is from this organization. So now I bet you, Ross, I bet you they are going to come out soon with some kind of ticket package or some kind of distraction to try and get away from all the nonsense that's going on around this hockey team.
Yeah, and Pillsy, I know you have a final question, but I need to keep diving into this because this blew my mind today. Erin Crow, the former CFO, she's coming back now in February, doesn't mention the owner in her statement, says Anthony LeBlanc is a big reason why she wants to be there. Does that not smell a little fishy?
So I've texted, and so I was just getting a call is about that particular situation.
Take the call on air. It's all good, exclusive.
I sent a few texts going, did you see this? And people are like, you got to be kidding me. Like, so she's really good at what she does. And she was really well liked within the organization, but her and the owner, as always, had a falling out and she left. So I guess time heals all wounds, but this one blows my mind.
All right. Stay tuned.
It's never a dull day in Ottawa Senators universe, that's for sure. And now I wanted to get just one final question, since you did mention it, and we're a goalie-friendly show here. What's your take on the whole Matt Murray situation here? Like, I'm sure maybe you've covered it on your show, but we've had a bunch of discussions and debates about how this whole thing has went down, and I just want to get your take on it here, Wally.
So, has Matt Murray struggled? Absolutely. Was he struggling when he got to Ottawa? Absolutely. There are some things that were discussed internally when they signed him to work through the struggles he had and how it was going to turn him around. And they knew it was going to take a while. My understanding is DJ Smith didn't really like the Matt Murray deal or didn't really get excited about having him. And that just continued to snowball as he struggled. So this decision to put him on waivers, I think was done well before this particular road trip in which they did it. Now, so they fire Pierre Gru. They say goaltending coach is clearly the problem here. We're going to bring in Zach Burke, who's a buddy of DJ Smith. They work together. That hasn't obviously been the reason. So now now he gets hurt and he goes through COVID and he gets hurt again. All that, we get it. So he struggled in his one game back. I'm too lazy to do this, but if you go back, I think he may have had 5 practices this season where there hasn't been 3 goalies on the ice, like 5 full practices.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so he goes in, he has 1 practice and a morning skate, and now he's playing the game and he has a bad game. So they're like, no, we're done. So I don't believe they've treated Matt fairly. But I understand this is a results-driven league. There's no question you have to win to be in the National Hockey League.
Especially with that contract. Yep.
Right. But you've got a guy signed to that contract. You can't just peddle him somewhere else and go, here, just go be somebody else's problem. You gave him that deal. You owe it to him to figure it out, however that is. So the way they did it in sending him down, I think was really Bush League. I think you've heard from Mike McKenna, who's said the same thing. And they've treated a few guys that way. And Mike Condon was another goalie. They've done the same thing too. Like, Pierre doesn't know how to handle problems. He only knows how to be in front when the team is winning and say great things about the team. When the team is struggling, Pierre hides. And this is what we're seeing. This shouldn't be on Matt Murray. I get it. He struggled. And I've said it before, but help him. You've got to help him. This is your number one guy. So we knew coming in that the last year he was going to get what Jamie McLennan, I think, called danger pay, that he was going to be overpaid because he was going to see a ton of hockey and a ton of bucks. So we got to fast forward and help them out to get through that. I don't think they've done it. And I know Matt Murray personally, and I know this is hard on him, obviously. I don't like the way they treated him. And now I think you're almost at this point where, can you resolve this, or is it now too late? And I think it's time to move on. You've got to try and find a trade partner. I'm not sure you can, obviously, but I don't think burying him in the minors is going to be the way to do that.
Definitely not. What'd you think of Belleville using the quote they did in their tweet of his availability?
Which quote?
He was talking about how it's so professional down there. There's no reason to believe why they aren't a winning team.
So I believe Matt wanted to take some shots at the organization for the way he was treated, and he tried to do it, I
I think he did it in the right way. Like if you read between the lines,
yes.
he's only complimenting Belleville, and
Yes.
I have reason to believe everything he said was probably true. Like the way Troy Mann speaks, though we've worked in Belleville, like everyone seems to have a professional attitude there. So really, he didn't say anything wrong. It's just
it's the omission. It's the same omission there you see from all the players that they leave. They thank the training staff, the coaching staff, and their teammates, and it stops there.
And if you listen to the way Craig Anderson said his goodbyes, he thanked or he said Brian Murray was a huge part of it.
Yes.
There was never any mention of Pierre Dorian. And Bobby Ryan didn't. Mark Borowiecki didn't say anything.
Kyle
Craig
Turris.
Anderson. So
LOL.
Like, you never just give me one guy that has said, man, I want to thank Pierre Dorian for all he's done for me. I have yet.
He gets high fives though. High fives and hugs. Hugs and high fives.
Yeah. Just so you know, Marc Methot was on that team. We have yet to discuss seeing Pierre Dorian.
We need that. We need a
gate,
high five gate. Yeah.
Broken through here.
Stay tuned for that.
That's fair because I don't think any of the fans were high-fiving and hugging when those things went down.
So. Pilsy was in a room with me when that went down. And I don't know if I had my Jonathan Dahlen pom-poms on at the moment or what, but I was pretty livid. And then the extension to match.
The one thing I don't get, guys, and you can help me out maybe because you guys talk as much about the Sens is why does Michael Del Zotto get a 2-year deal when he was out of hockey 2 years ago, and now he's got a 2-year, $2 million deal? The same with Alex Burrows was on his last games.
Yeah.
Yet he gets a new 2-year deal. Was he at 2.5 or 3? Was it
It was 2.5. And then remember he scored in his first game and Boucher goes, I wonder what people think of the deal now.
Yeah.
Then he's bought out the next summer.
Yeah. So I think
the Sens were paying him when he was coaching in Laval.
Yes. Well, Dion Phaneuf at one point was the highest paid Senator defenseman in the lineup.
Yep. I remember that.
Not in the lineup, right? Like there's so many decisions that I can't wrap my head around of signing these deals. I can see you taking contracts on like Nikita Zaitsev to get Connor Brown and to move other people out. Like I can get that. I can't get behind guys who seem to be done, Eric Goodbranson, Braden Coburn, and bringing these guys in. I can't fathom this. This is the one thing that blows my mind.
And then turning around and signing Josh Brown, saying that he's scratching the surface of his NHL potential, which is so far 39 games, 1 assist, -6.
The only scratching is the healthy scratches. Sheesh.
Yeah. He did throw that one hit in Boston, though.
Yeah. But when they win, and fans always do this, obviously, is when they were winning at the beginning of the year, we use winning as a loose term in Ottawa. Everybody was like Josh Brown and Nick Holden. They all look great. They're on the Victor Mete should be playing 35 minutes a night. When you put him against some real competition here now, you see that's not quite the case.
It's tough.
For all the love that Lassie Thompson gets, I'm not sure he's still ready to play in the National Hockey League yet. Maybe, but there's no way he's a top pairing D-man right now with Thomas Chabot on a normal hockey team.
Yeah, well, you nailed it with that last part. Hopefully they do what they did at the deadline last year, though. They were able to find takers somehow, some way.
Why is Derek Stepan in your? Why was he even considered? By the way,
wasn't he making like $6 million? I think it was less than
$6.5 million, but he was getting paid like no real.
I was like, but still.
I know it was a cap move, but nobody thought he could actually play.
No, healthy scraps tonight for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, speaking of.
That's the frustrating stuff. Like spend some real money and make this a real organization. That's all. Just make it like everybody else.
I think it's what Simmer said. He's like, how much better would Balser, Schlappick, and Abramov be than Gaudette, Gambrell, and I probably other forgettable names really.
Well, now the Abramov one is interesting because
they still have his right.
He's still here. Yeah, sort of.
He's here, but there.
Though.
Yeah. He's here, but there, which is a good thing, actually.
He's not coming back. Like the organization.
He's Michael. What? He's Michael Wickstrand. They still have his rights too.
I think this is the last year. Maybe they still have. I can't.
Maybe he's still bagging groceries.
Is the thing with Abramov? Like the organization was done with him because they didn't feel that he was smart enough to play at the NHL level. And they might be right, but it always.
How would you know?
That's well, because let's give. Okay, I'm probably talking to both sides of my mouth here. Let's give DJ Smith, it pains me, Pierre Dorian, some credit that they're a little bit smarter than we are at the National Hockey League level. I understand how dumb that may sound right now. But you don't just get to the NHL by, like me, hosting a podcast, right? Like you've done some real work, I would think. Yeah, I know you guys are out too.
I know.
And Troy Mann and Trent Mann, like there's a lot of smart hockey people around some of the other people. So you've got to give them some kind of credit for being able to recognize certain things about certain players. And not everyone's obviously a hit, but I got to think that when they see Abramov against some of the other players, they understand that he's not a guy that's going to make a National Hockey League roster on a regular basis. Some guys come up and score goals right away and they're like, oh, he's great. Then you don't see him 5 games later. So that's the stuff. I think they were right on their decision of Abramov.
Pilsy, you don't want to stand up for your boy?
I mean, yeah, I am an Abramov fan, but
not like he's a Rudy Balcer super fan. Like the way you love Billy Smith growing up, you talked about it on the last time you were on. That's how much Pilsy likes Rudolph Balcers.
I mean, Rudolph Balcers is in a top 6 NHL role. Fact or fiction?
Mirage.
Okay, I need to have a different
option 3.
I have a question, and that is, why do we get so behind unproven prospects, and then when they don't get played, we get all wound up and say he needs to be in the lineup, and then when they play and they're 4th line players and can't seem to figure out the consistency, we're like, well, the organization screwed up.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about Balcers, I don't feel like he was given a fair shot. Like how many games did he have with Ottawa? I mean, it's been so long since I looked at this, and also if you're asking why I feel that way, I watched him go on a 16-game point streak in Belleville, and I thought he was an absolute superstar. So that it's some personal bias, I'll admit.
Yeah, okay, but he did have not the National Hockey League.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair. Yeah.
No, but even in his 2 first looks in the NHL, Pilsy is the Rudolph Balcers fan show, but how
many games he played, so he can't be that big of a fan.
Yeah, that's a fair point. You got me there. Yeah, my memory's not good. We talked about this, Wally.
Yeah, we all just got a little Walnut in there.
I'm the last guy that should be chirping about memory.
Hey, 40 goals with Kamloops in 2016-17. That's probably when Pilsy got on the bandwagon.
How many games? Well, he was an AHL scoring. Was he a scoring champion in the AHL?
No, he was an AHL All-Star.
Yep.
All-Star. Okay. 36
points in 33 games the year Pilsy and I got to see him up.
How many NHL games?
With Ottawa? He had 14 points in NHL. Well, he's got 65 of them with San Jose down there. But if we're going overall, he's got 44 points in 114 games.
Yeah.
All right. 0.39.
Yeah.
He's average.
He's definitely better than the other 2 guys we mentioned there, Schlappick and Abramov.
Yeah. Like I didn't have a problem with him being in the lineup. I never had a problem with. I'm just like, should we get this wound up over guys who are arguably bottom 6 forwards?
Probably not, to be perfectly honest. Yeah.
I expect you now to yell at me about Clark Bishop. Like, damn it, where's Clark Bishop?
That's the Sens are asking that every press conference. They bring him up that his injury is the reason for the slow start.
Hey,
that's great
Brian
dude.
Gibbons
though
was a legend as well. We need that guy back.
Oh yeah, the number of so under Pierre Dorian, I think Adam Gaudette is the 101st player to suit up for the Sens.
That is unbelievable.
I believe
that's
that.
an NHL high.
Yes, has to be.
So, hey, you don't even know. Maybe you don't
need to lay
know
down.
Who these guys are because you just keep changing them all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm going through and I'm looking up let's get certain guys on to do interviews with, and I'm looking well, he only played 30 games. He played nobody's going to give a shit about Ryan Dzingel because he didn't play enough.
Yeah.
So. We need some consistency in this lineup and start building some real players to stay in this lineup, like Pajot or Stone or whatever. And that's a whole other story, but I just want them to get to a point where there's some actual consistency in this lineup and stop just keep moving players in and out.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say about it too, is that bring in people who excite, right? I referenced it in yesterday's show with Pilsy that the Penguins brought in John LeClaire, Mark Recchi, Chicago, they kept bringing in these guys who you hear about from around the league to really kind of make that next step. And Ottawa just hasn't had that. So
none of those people want to go to Ottawa.
Exactly. We can hope and pray for Claude Giroux, but I'm still skeptical.
No, No.
As a free agent.
No hope.
I don't see that happening.
No? All right.
If you're Claude Giroux and you live in this city in the off season, and you skate with Pajot and you know
he knows
Marc
all the
Methot,
stories, eh?
What are you going? Yeah, this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
Follow the breadcrumbs though with Aaron Crow. Maybe we've got to change up top by then.
Could you imagine? Like, I'm still trying to sort that whole move out, but anyway, I'll leave that alone. I don't know. Claude Giroux may be one, but you talk about Mark Recchi and those guys. They did it. They brought in Alex Kovalev. How did that go?
Yeah. And it's easier to attract.
I like watching him.
Yeah, we got one moonwalk out of him that'll live forever.
He was fun when he was trying for 10% of the time.
I loved watching him in practice.
So
like, I don't have any muscles, but he would kneel when they do a team stretch on the far blue line, and he would just saucer pucks and try to land them on top of the net at the other end. And he would come within inches of and just landing. And so I tried to record it every day to see if we could get him to land one on the net. But the fact that you can just snap that from your knee,
it's crazy.
But then ask him to back check. Different story.
No, he's just a good practice guy.
Yeah.
Well, we'll leave the back checking on Wally and Methot for Mark, the former defenseman. We'll let you keep roaming around the offensive zone with the interviews. We're loving the show. Can't wait for the Andre Wall one tomorrow. Everyone go check that out if you're listening right now. Brent Wallace, always appreciate you, man. You're a recurring guest now, friend of the show. So we look forward to doing this again down the road.
I love it. We'll have you guys on our show. Anyway, you guys do fantastic work. So keep it up. It's a grind for you to do it every day. So I'm all kudos to you guys for doing that.
All right. Stick taps to Wally for joining us. You can follow him on Twitter at FreeAgentWally, but we know you already are. He's a legend in the Ottawa media scene and now a friend of the show. Pillsy, great to have him on and great to go into the weekend feeling good about a victory. Next up, it's the Colorado Avalanche. How you feeling going into that one on home ice?
I have mixed feelings about this one, Ross, because Kemper is sidelined and the Colorado Avalanche, this has been the story for the last 5 years for them, it seems like, that their top goalie gets injured at bad times and they don't have the proper backups to cover for him. I think Francouz, their other backup, he's also injured, so they have to go to Johansson, who is not a good goalie.
Career 895 save percentage.
Not a good goalie, so it's going to be tough, but they did have some success up against the Montreal Canadiens, though the Leafs did pounce on them. So we'll see if the Sens can kind of meet in the middle there and hopefully have a good competitive game. But anytime you got the line of Landeskog, McKinnon, Rantanen, you need to be on your best defensive effort. So it's going to be a tough challenge for the defense and for the goaltender playing on Saturday.
Let's put it this way. Colorado scored 7 goals on Ottawa last week without Nathan McKinnon. And now they add him into the lineup. So it'll be a tough test for the Ottawa Senators, no question, but still great to just feel a win against a good team. Like Carolina, say what you want that they're 1-4-1 in their last 6 games now after that loss to Ottawa. But did you hear Gord Miller? And shout out Gord Miller hitting us with the retweet, the quote tweet last night. That was out of left field. We don't even follow him from the Sens Central account, so I had to throw him a follow. We appreciate that. Nice. Obviously, we've had some experiences with him working for TSN. That being said, he had a stat during the broadcast that Carolina had outshot their opponents the last 2 games by like 47 shots, and they lost both games. So unlucky maybe, but I don't care. This is a goalie-friendly show. Anton Forsberg earned that victory for the Ottawa Senators. Quickly before we go.
We're not apologizing for that win, that's for sure.
Is it Forsberg's net now?
No, I don't think so, because
you would start Gus against Colorado?
Nah, I guess give it to Forsberg, the hot hand, but I still have Gus as the number 1 guy right now because Forsberg had that hot game to start the season, and then we hadn't seen it again till now. So we'll see. But you know what? DJ Smith does say he goes with the hot hand, so I wouldn't be shocked to see Forsberg, and I'm okay with that.
Yes, and we will definitely see both of them early next week because the schedule, there's no rest for the weary here, where Ottawa has at New Jersey in that makeup game on Monday, and then Tuesday back home against an Islanders team who has just been so bad this year.
9 straight losses.
Almost unsustainably bad, and that worries me in a sense. Meanwhile, while we're talking goalies, Matt Murray expected to make his first start tomorrow night. So follow us on Twitter for all the latest regarding the Belleville Senators, Matt Murray's beginnings down there. And Senators at Avalanche. And stay tuned afterwards. We will have a postcast right here streaming on YouTube. And then we will quickly turn it around and put it out for you on all audio platforms. We appreciate everyone listening. Another great week of LOSP. And it's more to come next. Hope you enjoyed our interview as well with Brent Wallace. Have a great weekend, everyone. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.